soul on a track.
I'm good. I'm good up here. Am I here? Yeah. I think I am. Okay. That's good. Let's fire this up, Marlon. And good morning. Good morning, everybody. Here we are. My favorite time of the week, my favorite place to be. The Road to a Million show is live. This is the Road to a Million show. We're at roadtoamillionshow.com. I'm Daron C. Campbell, the hardest working man in real estate, your real estate mentor. And we're on this journey. It's this journey. We're all going to the top. And we call it the Road to a Million because, you know, it's about insights. It's about advice. It's about admonition. It's about things that might help you grow, might help you prosper. Really, that's the bottom line. We really want to try to help you prosper. And prosper doesn't always mean money. It means knowledge. It means access. It means, financial growth. We like to emphasize around here that we work on your brain, your body, and your bank account. And if we could do that simultaneously, then maybe we can all get a little better. Maybe we can all get a little stronger. And, I think the shows are only getting better. Last week we had my man Marty Sassoon here, financial planner extraordinaire. And, we talked about the value and the benefits and the advantages of using life insurance products to grow wealth. And a lot of people don't even know that life insurance is a product that does grow wealth. But the fact of the matter is people at near the top of the financial food chain actually get the opportunity and take advantage of what an insurance product can do for you financially. So we illustrated last week with Marty's help how you could take an insurance policy and insure with an E that you have an annuitized retirement income. A lot of people don't have a pension. A lot of people are worried that Social Security might not be around when it's our turn to retire. And the fact is, insurance products, life insurance products primarily, can ensure that you have a certain amount of income every year for the rest of your life. And here's what we learned that was really key, the earlier you start to purchase or invest in that life insurance product, the cheaper it is, because obviously it's cheaper because you're younger. But what a lot of people just think of immediately when they hear life insurance, they think, well, I'm going to buy a policy and I'm going to make somebody else rich when I die. I'm not interested in that. Well, that's really not the point. The fact of the matter is life insurance is a tool. And it doesn't just mean death benefit. It could be the thing that eliminates or offsets estate taxes. So if I want to leave my kids, 10 pieces of property and a bunch of money, a life insurance policy can ensure that my kids don't pay inheritance tax or estate tax. it could offset that. There's also several different products that you could purchase, especially cheaply while you're young, so that when you turn 65 or 70 or 75 or whatever age you designate, you could have an income annuitized for the rest of your life. That's what an insurance product can do for you. And the funny thing about that is a lot of times insurance products can give you a minimal they can have a floor that pay you a minimum return, and everything else is upside from there. So while you might have some investments that pay you zero, and you might have some investments that lose money, there are certain insurance products that guarantee a minimum rate of return, and then that rate of return becomes compounded. So if you don't use compounding interest in your financial portfolio, then you're leaving a very, very powerful tool on the table. And so anyway, my man Marty Sassoon came by. We talked about that. We chopped it up. Then he and I spent a lot of time this weekend together on his boat. The man has a serious boat. But we spent some time on his boat brainstorming about how we're going to come back on a regular basis. We're going to have him back on a regular basis to teach you more things that are, more tips that can help you fine-tune your financial portfolio, your financial wherewithal, your financial, capabilities. And so these are little things that some people use that maybe you weren't taught about as a kid. So anyway, that's what the Road to a Million show is all about. Now today we get to do something special as well. I'm going to have a special guest on in the second hour of the show, and this person is a mortgage expert. And we're going to talk about mortgages. We're going to talk about low money down, no money down, opportunities for you to get financing in ways that a lot of times you didn't know about. So anyway, we're gonna pick her brain and talk about how mortgages are working these days and where you might be able to go if you don't have a mortgage. If you don't think you have the capability to buy something, you might be surprised. You actually might be shocked. I've helped a number of people acquire homes and investment properties when they didn't think they qualified. And so my guest today should be able to help us a little bit with that, maybe shed some light on some things that you didn't know you had the ability to do. How about that? That's cool. We try to be valuable. I want to be valuable to you. I want you to go, let me not miss the Road to a Million show today, because every time I go on, I learn something that's critical to my growth. And if that's what happens, then I'm doing my job, because that's what I consider my job, to help you grow in ways you might not otherwise have grown, and grow in ways that school didn't necessarily teach you, that mom and pops didn't necessarily teach you. And, so in some ways, in some facets of life, I've been behind the curtain. And so what I'm trying to do with this show is pull back the curtain and let you see what's back there. And what's back there in many cases are some things that somebody didn't teach you, some things that schools certainly didn't teach you, and some things that you might not have been exposed to that could actually help you in your day-to-day life, and then in your later life, your retirement. I mean, the baby boomers that tend to be our parents, my generation's parents, are all retired and getting up there. And do you know there are so many people who don't have a real plan in place? But you want to know what an even greater epidemic is? Those of us that are younger than baby boomers, and I'm just younger than baby boomers. I think I missed the baby boomer generation by like 3 or 4 years. But the fact is, there are so many of us that, what are we, Generation X? What am I, Generation X? I think there's so many of us that have no financial plan for later on, for retirement. Our parents kind of grew up where you could get a job, and that job sort of came with a retirement concept. Pension. A pension plan was the way you were going to retire. The idea, the expectation was you were going to work on that job for 25 or 30 or 40 years, and then you were going to retire from that job. And many of those jobs would have a pension fund. Now, today we use the word pension erroneously because a pension is not the same as a 401k. And a pension was something that was funded, co-funded by the employer and you, the employee. And at the end of, your tenure there, which could have been as much as, I think my grandfather worked on his job for 45 or 50 years. At the end of that, there was a fund that paid you this annuitized amount of money based on how much you had put into it and how much the company had added to it as well. Well, today, the concept has changed, and the 401k is what has largely taken the place of the pension. That game is completely different than what our parents had access to. So what I plan to do over the next few weeks is I'm going to bring in a 401k retirement specialist as well to tell you the specifics about the differences between those products. How about that? But today we're going to get into the mortgage game. My guest is going to come and talk to us about mortgage, and so we'll learn a lot more about that. But that is coming up in the second hour. This first hour, we're going to talk a little bit about drilling down and giving yourself the best opportunity to achieve the most. And I'm going to use some of the observations I've made over the years to try to talk to you about some of the things that are critical and imperative to people's individual and business success. So we're going to come back, and when I come back, we're going to dive into focus, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a 2 or 3 minute break. What is it, Nick? It's a 3-minute break. We're going to take a 3-minute break. When I come back, we're going to start talking about focus. Focus. I love that topic. So we're going to get into focus for the next 30, 45 minutes, and then I'm going to bring on my guest, and we're going to talk about mortgages, interest rates, loans, and financing your future. I will see you in 3 minutes. This is the Road to a Million Show. I'm Daron C. Campbell, the hardest working man in real estate, your real estate mentor. We'll be back in 3 minutes. on the Road to a Million show. This is the Road to a Million show. I got to pull this mic closer. How about that? Road to a Million show at roadtoamillionshow.com. You know, we went live, or at least we went Facebook Live last Thursday. I was at the National Association of Real Estate Brokers conference in Las Vegas, and so we did a little segment live. I don't know how many of you caught it, but we had a really good time because we had almost 300 realtors in the room, realtists in the room, and it was phenomenal. But the cool thing is, when I go to events like that, and then I get the privilege of speaking and being one of the keynote speakers, I get the opportunity after I'm done ranting and pontificating and yelling, as I've been told I do. I get the privilege of talking to people in the real estate profession, people in the sales profession, people in the mortgage profession, people in the different financial aspects, primarily real estate salespeople. But then what I do is I get to talk to them. I get to ask them about what it is that they think, you know, is their biggest obstacle to achieving maximum success. And this is kind of like a constant, an ongoing question I have for everybody that I coach and people that I train, and then the people that I get to talk to, you know, after after I come off stage or what have you. And you know, it's funny. One of the most common things I hear from people is that they say that time, or better stated, the lack of time, is their biggest obstacle to achieving the greatest amount of success. So what I've done in, you know, sort of my own mastermind lab is I try to look at the things or look at the methodologies that can conserve time, or give us the opportunity to have more time. And it's kind of crystallized into a few things, but one of the big things that I believe contributes to your time equation, meaning if you do it well, you can find more time, and if you do it poorly, you get less time, is this thing called focus. I call it focus. I'm real big on the idea that focus is critical to your ability to manage time. Now, what does that mean? Explain, Daron. All right, so I believe that people who have found, on a macro basis, I believe that people who have found an area of focus for their business can scale that business up faster than most people. So let me give you a great example. The company In-N-Out Burger, great example. In-N-Out Burger is founded on a concept: fresh everything, never frozen anything, and they focus on one primary product: their burgers. Their burger is their signature item, and you'll notice they only have 5 or 6 items on the menu to start with, and it's all built around what goes with a burger. Well, now, what you might say is, hey, well, In-N-Out's not the largest burger place on the planet. In-N-Out is privately held, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a franchise. It's not a big publicly traded corporation. It is a privately held company. And the way they have focused their attention, they've gotten laser focused since their founding day, and they focused on making the best product in this category. They focus on making the hamburger better than anyone else makes the hamburger. They attribute that focus, that minimal sized menu, to their success. They drill down. They said, we're going to make the best burger, and then we're going to pay people well to help us keep it the best. So they focused, and then they grew astronomically because of that focus. Now, that's a macro thing. That's a company saying, what are we going to focus on? I mean, you look, Starbucks. What did they decide to focus on in Starbucks? They focused on coffee. They launched with coffee. They began with basic coffee. Have they been able to put ancillary products around that coffee? Absolutely. But how did they make that first $1 billion? Focusing on the coffee. You see, once you become wealthy, you can spread out into a whole lot of different things. But before you are prominent, it's imperative that you focus on something that you can dive into and sell out for that one thing. You see, I think a lot of us, we look around and we see all of these, all this diversification. But let me tell you something about diversification. Diversification early in your career, business or employment, is way overrated. You do not need to be diverse early on before you make your fortune. Okay? Those are words to live by. Now, I didn't even borrow that from somebody. That's me. I made that up myself. But I'm telling you it's true. Diversification, we got to come up with some kind of saying. Angie, that must be another T-shirt. Diversification is procrastination. Diversification spreads you too thinly. Diversification is this thing that sounds good, but it actually makes for like a scatterbrain. Imagine what do you picture when you think of a scatterbrain? You think of that person that's kind of all over the place. They're kind of dingy sometimes, and they're trying to do everything, right? And you don't really respect them because they're trying to be everything to everybody. But if you really want to grow rapidly, I say you squeeze everything down and come up with that one thing. Okay, so I just told you about a corporation. A corporation, they tend to start out with one thing. Even McDonald's started out with burgers and fries and shakes. Burgers and fries and shakes. In their infancy, that's all they did, burgers and fries and shakes. Now they might have 50 items on the menu. But back in 1944, there was nothing but burgers and fries and shakes. Now, I don't want to give too many burger examples, but that's how they started. Starbucks started with the coffee. I'm going to find a way to sell cups of coffee for $2 or $3 or $4. Okay? Then, when I talk to people in the real estate business, I told you, I get to talk to a lot of people in the real estate business. And I think a big mistake, a thing that holds them back from their maximum growth opportunity is that they fail to focus on a thing. And the way I preach it is you got to find an area of expertise. You got to find a specialization. But it's just saying the same thing. Find something to focus on. And if you find that focus and you dive into that focus, well, now you can really amplify the way you grow. You see, scattered people really don't get to put down any roots. Scattered people don't really get to be known for anything. I suggest that if you become known for something, no matter how little that something is, no matter how small or bargain priced that product is, you could grow your wealth much more rapidly than if you were bouncing all over the place trying to do everything. I don't think people get that. I think you just became like the master of one thing. You know that saying, jack of all trades, master of none? Well, there's some wisdom to that. You need to become the master of something. So in a real estate practice or in a mortgage broker practice or in a salesperson practice, you want to focus on the thing that you sell better than anything else. The thing that you want to build your business around more than anything else. So when I say the thing, it's the market, it's the neighborhood, it's the niche that you want to spend your time focused on. And here's a challenge. I'm going to tell you the hardest thing to do. Say no to everything else. Now that's the hardest thing to do because I've coached 400 or 500 people, right, in this business. And I can make them choose an area of focus. I can. They actually will listen to me after beat it into their heads after 10 sessions. And they'll do it. They'll choose that area, go, Daron, okay, that's my territory. That's where I'm going to be. That's where I'm going to focus. But you know what they fail to do that would really compound that business? Is they never learn how to say no to all the other stuff. Whoa. You hear me? They don't learn to say no to all the other things that come flying at them every day. And you might think you're not one of them, but let me give you a little quiz, a little challenge. How many times do you interrupt your primary work to look at your emails? I want you to think about that number. then how many times do you interrupt your focused efforts to take a phone call that's not related? There's two things. There's sucked up a third of your day. How many times do you stop to deal with or associate with or visit with or chat with someone who has nothing to do with your focused activity? Ever think about that? If you, the average real estate agent, again, I'm kind of a mad scientist when it comes to studying people and how they behave and why I think they got where they got. So I feel like the average realtor, in my experience, the average realtor wastes between 30 and 40% of their day on non-revenue producing activity. 40%? So how much more money would you have made if you put that 40% into revenue producing activity? How much more money would you take home this year if that 40% was spent on revenue producing activity? If you had that focus that we're talking about for that other 40% of the time. And with some of you, I'm being real generous by implying that you're using 60% of your time on revenue producing activity. One might argue that most real estate agents are more like the 50-50 or worse category. Okay, so you say, Daron, well, what's the key to the kingdom? Ladies and gentlemen, choose a focus and spend your revenue producing time 100% on that focus. I mean, here's a challenge. We should challenge each other. We should always come away from these concepts with a challenge. What if you try to spend just a week? What if for 1 week you didn't let anything pull you away from your revenue producing activity? And I know it's easy to say and really, really hard to do. It's even hard for me to do, and I'm the one preaching this sermon. It is difficult to do, to find what you need to focus on and stay focused on it 100% of the time that you're supposed to be focusing on it. It's hard to do. But if you learn to do that, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is the one single key, most important ingredient in your massive success. Be In-N-Out Burger for just a week. Just focus on the one thing that your business is built around and nothing else. And then, okay, you want to check your email and you want to check Facebook and you want to check Instagram. Why don't you do it outside of the revenue producing time? What if you just did that on the other side of your revenue producing time? If I surveyed 100 salespeople, real estate people, mortgage people, if I surveyed 100 of them, 97 of them would not have this focused, uninterrupted attention. They wouldn't. And it's strange that there's that many people who would tell you they're not making their income goals. You think there's a coincidence there? That's no coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. That's the real deal. That's what's going on. That's why people aren't making their goals. They aren't focused. They haven't chosen anything to focus on. And then let's take it down to another level. Let's say you did choose an area of focus where you really wanted to spend your time and attention. I want to become the king of this territory. And you chose the territory. Okay, so step 1 is underway. Way to go. Good job. Thanks, Daron. Thanks for the advice. Now, let's try this. Go to step 2. How many days in a row can you focus on the activity of just focusing on that place, that niche, that area of specialization? So let's say I focus on Torrance, California. I just picked that pretty randomly. Let's say you focus on, your area is going to be Torrance, California, this particular area of Torrance. Now, all right, so now I've just squeezed it down to a focus. So that's step 1. Step 2 is block out everything that's not Torrance between the hours of, let's give yourself an 8-hour day. Let's say between 9 and 5, you focus on nothing but things related to Torrance. Okay? And then let's say you focused yourself on dialing the phone numbers or knocking on the doors of nothing but the people of Torrance for 8 hours each day during your revenue producing hours. I call that 9 to 5. I could just send out this challenge. There's 2 million realtors out there. There's 2 million of us out there. 99% don't even spend 20 days a year doing what I'm talking about. But yet it's so mysterious as to why 88% of realtors making less than $100,000 a year. People are like baffled. Like, why isn't anybody making the kind of money they want? Why are only 12% of the people making all the money? It's because of a lack of focus, ladies and gentlemen. It's usually not because of some magical sales skills. It's usually not because of some magical territory that's just on fire that some people got lucky because they chose that territory first. It's usually because there's a lack of focus in your life. Man, if we could cure the focus disease, we could cure the struggling, stressed out realtors, salespeople, mortgage broker crisis in this country. I could fix it. I just gave you the cure. Dr. Daron, what's the cure? Get focused, man. Get focused. I want you to think about, where are you spending your time? I once had this group of people do this exercise. I want you to write down. I gave everybody these little timers, and I made people set the timer for 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes, this timer would beep. And so at the end of that 30 minutes, each person had to write down what they did for the last 30 minutes. Woo-wee. You want to talk about an exercise that told some truth, that really like messed people's heads up? It shone a light on how much time people were actually wasting in their day. You might want to try that. Every phone has basically an egg timer in it. So what you could do is set your smartphone to beep at you every 30 minutes. And when that beep happens, take 2 minutes and write down what you've done for the last 30 minutes. And at the end of the day, I want you to go back and look at what's on your page, what's on that piece of paper that you wrote down, your activities. The sad thing is most people will find that they didn't do very much that was productive. The productive time was the smallest piece of the chart, and the goof off, wasted, zone out, Facebook goof off time was the majority of the day. Isn't that crazy? Even people who work 9-to-5 jobs and punch a clock, when employers have surveyed what their employees were doing on an almost minute-by-minute basis, that same 30-minute egg timer test, they found that most employees were at about 45% productivity. 45% of a workday, and 55% was other stuff. Lunch, break, conversation with buddies, social media time, checking their phone, goofing off, anything and everything but the actual work. If you could find a way to raise your productivity, let's say from 50, 60% to 75, 80%. Imagine the difference in your business. Imagine, because look, I'll get a little technical on you for a second here. If you're at 50% productivity and you simply go up to 75% productivity, that's not a 25% increase, ladies and gentlemen. That's a 50% increase. 25% in addition to the 50% you're already giving is a 50% increase. How would you feel if you had a 50% increase in your revenue, a 50% increase in your salary, a 50% increase in your productivity? Imagine how powerful you'd be. Imagine what kind of leverage you would have over your employer. Imagine what kind of domination you could have in your territory. Think about that. So try that as a project. Why don't you take today? Why don't you do it today? As soon as we're done with the show, we'll be done. Let's say you start at 11 o'clock. Every 30 minutes from that point forward, I want you to jot down what you accomplished in the last 30 minutes. And let's see if you come back with some shocking, scary statistics about yourself and your level of productivity. Oh my goodness. Look out. Reality check is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Reality check is coming. This is all in a quest to just get you more focused. How about that? Can we get you more focused? It's going to be fun, I'm telling you. So let's go down and and talk about some ways you might get better. Okay, I gave you the exercise, so let's try to do that exercise today. But let me give you some rules of thumb, some things that you might sort of incorporate or maybe live by, some tenets, some principles. First, make it your objective or your plan to not get buried doing stuff. You see, this 30-minute beeper exercise, egg timer exercise is what I call it, but does anybody use an egg timer anymore? Everybody uses a freaking smartphone for everything. Don't get buried doing stuff. See, it's the stuff I want to throw out of your daily work schedule. Get rid of the stuff. Quit the busy work. Stop with the silliness. Come on, it's time to wake up. A lot of people mistake being busy with being effective. There's two different things. There are people who can come in and do 3 hours worth of work and do more in 3 hours than you do in 8 or 9. Now, why don't you try to flip that around? Let's talk about being effective instead of busy. How about that? Let's replace busy with effective. Okay? And then I heard this great proverb talking about getting focused. So when you get focused, I want you to squeeze this down to a singular quest. So, okay, let's start like this. There's this saying that says if you try to chase 2 rabbits at the same time, you'll end up catching none. So instead of chasing 2 rabbits at a time where you'll catch none, why don't we focus on 1 rabbit? What's your 1 rabbit? Well, here's how you decide what your 1 rabbit is. Ask yourself the night before you go to bed or the morning as soon as you wake up, what is the one thing that I could do today that will make my life easier? So, in other words, what's the one big thing? What's the one big rock I could put in the jar? What is the one thing that if I go to bed tonight thinking, well, this is the only thing I got accomplished, you'd be proud of what that thing was? Think about it. And there's something every day that would move your needle. There's a whole lot of things that won't move the needle. I know I'm talking a lot of metaphors here, but the fact is, there's one thing you could do today that would be the most significant thing you could make happen. And that you'd go to bed feeling, hey, man, I got something real done today. Even if it was just one thing, what is that one thing? I want you to give that some thought. Let's try that. After we do our egg timer exercise today, tonight or tomorrow morning, I want you to wake up and say, what is the one thing I could accomplish today that would make my day have been worth it, have been significant, have been worthwhile, have been accomplished? Give you that good feeling, that good sense of accomplishment. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know that feeling I'm talking about, right? There you go. They say, there's this saying that says time is the currency of achievement. Well, that means using your time in its most efficient manner gives you the most access to the currency that time is. So in other words, use your time wisely, because that is the ingredient, the key ingredient that goes into the thing that is achievement for all of us. So I'm finding that the most focused people, the most single-minded people get the most done. Even though the people that are running around saying, I got 90 things on my to-do list, kind of feel like they're doing the most. Oh man, I'm so busy. I was so crazy busy. I think we like saying that. Is there some honor in this random busyness? I think not. I think we got to flip the switch. We got to flip the script. There ain't no honor in being busy. There is no honor in just being busy. The honor is in being effective and efficient. So what's the one thing you could do that would move the needle? There's a book that I read where they said there's a myth, there's a lie that you've been told, and it is that everything matters, or even everything matters equally. Everything doesn't matter. It does not matter if I make it to my favorite shoe shine joint and get my shoes shine. That doesn't matter nearly as much as if I follow up with that client who could close that $8 million transaction and give me the ability to buy 2,000 more pairs of shoes. I mean, just as a baby silly example. I could go spend an entire hour driving to my favorite shoe shine guy, let him shine up the shoes, pow, pow, shiny and sparkly and mirror finish. Great. My shoes look great. Or I could spend that same hour following up on the people that came to the open house over the weekend because one of them might have the ability, the capacity to pay for that $2 million transaction that would then put the $50,000 paycheck in my pocket. Same hour. Did they both matter the same? Were they both worth the same? You decide. You see, there's a difference between the activities that we do. There's an inherent value attached to every activity. And not only is there a value in that activity, there's an opportunity cost to every activity. So everything you do is displacing something else you could do. So what is the opportunity cost of what you're doing? There's an opportunity cost of watching my show. You might be watching my show right now, and if there's something way more valuable you could be doing, then that's something you need to be thinking about. You could also have the option of going sitting in the donut shop, eating 12 Krispy Kremes and missing my show. You got to decide what's more valuable to you. Which one would you get the most utility from? Which one is the thing that would move you further down the road to where you're trying to go? You see, it's not that we don't have enough time, ladies and gentlemen. Elon Musk's got the same 24 hours in a day that you do, and he runs 3 publicly traded companies. How many publicly traded companies did you run yesterday? Think about it. This man runs 3 publicly traded companies, over 100,000 employees. And he can do that having the same 24 hours that you got allocated. He got 24, you got 24. He ran 3 companies, and you did what? Use that egg timer routine. Check into that. Look into that. I think it might be an eye-opener for you. It might blow your mind. It might be a revelation to you. It might be something that messes you up. You might come back to me next week and be like, DC, what the heck? I did the 30-minute egg timer exercise, and I realized I've been wasting time like a madman. I'm telling you, I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen for a lot of them. I'm going to have Marlon do it. Marlon's going to do the 30-minute egg timer test, you guys. We'll share his results on the next show. But on a serious note, there's some real wisdom and some reality to the Pareto principle. Does everybody know what the Pareto principle is? It's the 80-20 rule. It's the rule that 80% of the results are produced by 20% of the impetus. So in other words, if you go across America, across industries, you'll find that in sales organizations, 20% of the salespeople typically generate 80% of the sales. Look at our industry. Look at the real estate industry. Less than 20% of the salespeople produce more than 80% of the velocity and the volume. That's called the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. The fact is, in studies, it is shown across the board in so many different ways that you get 80% production out of 20% input. Now, your job then is to decide what 20% of my day, of my life, is producing 80% of my results and focus on that. Does that make any sense? Okay, so we did a case study in one of the companies I used to run, and we decided, let's try to figure out where most of our business is coming from. So we did a study that decided, okay, we're going to evaluate, because what we did in this company was we did hard mail advertising, so postcards and letters. We did We did door knocking. We'd send our salespeople out and do door knocking. We did telemarketing. We got everybody on the telephones, and we did cold calling. And then we did newspaper advertising. So I said, I'm going to take all 4 of those categories, and then I'm going to chop them up, and I'm going to decide where. I'm going to look at where our closed sales came from, and I'm going to figure out where our business primarily comes from every year. So we were doing $2 billion worth of transactions every year. And I said, I'm going to take these 4 categories of the places we get our business, and I'm going to figure out where our business really comes from. Whoa, shocking stuff. The Pareto principle was true to almost to the number. We got 80% of our $2 billion worth of transactions from cold calling, from telemarketing. That was in the real estate business in a company I ran about 10 years ago. But the fact is, it was kind of mind-boggling because there was all those other things. There was the mailer, there was newspaper ads. This was before social media was a big thing. And there was door knocking. And so we spent a lot of time doing those 3, and then we spent a lot of time telemarketing, having everybody cold call. We found out through this study, I actually published it too. I wrote an article about it. But the fact is, we found out that cold calling produced more than the other 3 methods combined. Isn't that shocking? The 80-20 rule applies in almost everything you can think of. So it behooves you, it makes sense for you to stop and look at your revenue, look at your earnings, look at your money, and look at the sources from which you sourced all that stuff. And what you'll find is that usually there's a disproportionate thing that out-earns all the other things. Crazy, right? It's crazy. Today's real estate world, it might be social media. It still might be cold calling for you. It might be door knocking for you. I'm not saying those other things don't work. I'm saying for us, we got 80% of our business from the telephone. Now, if that's not crazy, I don't know what to tell you. But it's amazing. It's an eye-opener, and it will help you decide where that focus ought to be. This segment is all about focus. Where should I be aiming my time and attention? Well, in order to decide where that focus ought to be, you got to stop and look at where your business came from, right? And businesses that get really, really strong in their segment, they look at where their money is made and they spend more money in that department. Does that make sense? And so you need to do that with your business. If there are companies out there that decide on, they got all these different kinds of products. I'll give you a great example. I read a story recently that talked about the CEO of Microsoft. Microsoft a few years ago decided to change CEOs because they felt like Apple and Google and even Facebook were starting to kick their butts. You remember once upon a time, Microsoft was by far the richest company in the U.S. And then a period of about 10 years ago, Microsoft had been superseded by Apple and Facebook and Google. They had all kind of gobbled up the tech space and were the dominant players. And Microsoft changed CEOs, and he said, let's take a look at our business. He did just what I'm telling you to do. Oh, Google woke up and is trying to talk to me. What he found out was that Microsoft was trying to do too many different things, and they had lost their focus. So what did he do? He tossed out the smartphone business completely. That was an $8 billion department. He tossed it out, threw it away. We're out of the phone business. And he looked at 4 or 5 other departments, and he shuttled them. He got rid of them. He bounced them out. And he said, we're going to stay with our most, the things we focus on the most and the things that we make our money on the most. And he decided that the Windows software needed to be cloud-based software, and we're going to spend all our time and attention converting Windows from this thing in a box to this thing in the cloud. And ladies and gentlemen, 10 years later, Microsoft came back and passed Apple as the number 1 highest valued company on planet Earth. They went back and found their focus. So what I'm telling you as a real estate salesperson, as a mortgage salesperson, as a professional in any type of entrepreneurial business, there comes a period of time, and this is a very good time of year to start to do this. We'll talk about this coming up soon because Thanksgiving weekend is business planning, writing weekend. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But this upcoming month is a great time for you to stop and look at where your business has come from so that in 2020 you can hit the ground running, focused, and kicking butt. I'm going to challenge you to do that. But November is business planning month. It is vision board month. It is rewrite your business plan month. It is focus your attention and get your stuff together month so that 2020 is your best year yet. You like the sound of that? I love the sound of that. I think that's something we're going to do. Every year, anybody that's affiliated with me has to write their business plan in the month of November. And it's a great time to stop and look at what you did and what you didn't do. It's a good time to stop and look at where you've been and where you're going. And a lot of people don't stop and take stock like this, but I think it's important. It's the start of a new year. It's a perfect opportunity to be at a crossroads and shift directions if you need to. 2020 is a brand new year. You could be a brand new you. You could be a different person. You could rewrite your script. You make that decision, you could do it. November's a great time. I choose Thanksgiving weekend to do business planning because it's a long weekend. We all, we eat too much and drink too much on Thursday, but most of us have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the long weekend. So that's a great time for you to do your vision board, and we'll talk about that, and a great time for you to write your business plan and your goals and your objectives. And those are things that I think are critical to you growing to another level. And we'll try to go live a little bit on Friday of this week. I'm leading a whole vision boarding seminar. How about that? The group NAREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, is doing a big business planning prosperity meeting on Friday, and I'm leading their vision boarding session, and we're going to all work on our vision boards. So you can either come to that event if you like, or you can watch us because we'll go live here on Facebook, and we're going to be excited to get ready for 2020. How about that? All right. Well, that's going to be the end of this segment, and when I come back, we're going to be ready. We're going to have our guest here, and we're going to start talking about finances, mortgage, getting your loan, getting approved, getting pre-approved, getting yourself your first piece of real estate. We'll be back in 3 minutes. I'm Daron Campbell. This is the Road to a Million Show, roadtoamillionshow.com. I am your real estate mentor, and we are all headed together to the top. We'll be back in 3 minutes. And we are back on the Road to a Million show at roadtoamillionshow.com. I've been goofing off, not giving you guys the phone number. If you want to call in and holler at me, give me some ideas about what you're hearing on the show, give us some feedback. We'd be happy to have that. We're at 818-914-4087. And I'm always listening to your ideas. I want to hear some feedback. I want to hear if you think I'm crazy about this focus topic. Focus is everything. And I think focus can become your habit. And the cool thing is, I might have shared with you recently, I might have told you recently that it takes 66 days to form a habit. And if you want to become focused, why don't we take from now till the end of the year to start some new habits? See, focus is something that if you practice it, it'll become who you are. And if you start to narrow down your scatterbrainness and stop and get out of the shiny object syndrome and start drilling down and narrowing down the thing and quit chasing 20 different things and decide on that one thing that's going to move the needle today, then you can start this habit of becoming focused and doing the one thing that will make a difference in your day, will make a difference in your life. And then over time, then your habit will become doing that most important thing. And if you started each day knowing what the most important thing is, and then doing that thing, and then if you let everything else fall into its place, then you'll find that at the end of the day, you go to bed satisfied because you know you did the most important thing. You know you did the thing that moves the needle. You know that you did the thing that makes a difference in your road to a million. And all the other things will strangely fall into place. Your returns, your results will start to be exponential because you are a focus-driven individual. And I'm here to tell you that it'll shock you. If you get out of the multitasking game, if you get out of the shiny object syndrome game, if you stop running around, bouncing around, trying to be everything to everybody, and just decide what that one thing is going to be, I'm telling you, it's the number one disease that plagues salespeople, realtors, mortgage people. They don't focus. I'm challenging you to focus. Since it takes about 66 days to form a habit, we got about that much time left in the year. Why don't you take the rest of the year to start to get your focus? Now, why don't we begin by deciding and agreeing with me that November is the perfect business planning month. We're going to do our vision boards. We'll do that together. Marlon will take us live at the vision boarding event on Friday. We're going to write your business plan for 2020. We're going to figure out how you're going to grow, how you're going to conquer, how you're going to get better, how you're going to proliferate, how you're going to prosper in 2020, whether you like it or not. We're going to do that. I think it's the perfect time to do it. It's the perfect time. Isn't it the perfect time to change your life? Why don't we make that happen right now? All right, we're going to go to a short break because our super special, extra spectacular guest has arrived. I think Marlon gave her the wrong direction, so she was here a few minutes late, but we know that's Marlon, right? All right, so we're going to go to a break. We're gonna come back in 2 minutes with our super special guest. I'm Daron C. Campbell, the hardest working man in real estate, your real estate mentor. And I'll be back in 3 minutes. on the road to a million. This is the Road to a Million show at roadtoamillionshow.com. I'm Daron C. Campbell, the hardest working man in real estate, your real estate mentor. This is the crew. This is the tribe. We're all on a journey. We're headed to the top. And in that quest to get to the top together as a crew, as a posse, I try to bring the best of the best experts into the studio so that you can learn something that you might not have otherwise learned. You can learn something that your mom and dad didn't teach you. You can learn something that they certainly didn't teach you in school. And so today, I got mega mortgage expert, Miss Melissa Barba in the house. Hey, everybody say, hey, Melissa. Woo, woo, woo. Well, Melissa, first of all, everybody, I got to give her much love because the lady drove 3 hours to get to my show. So I want to say thank you for taking the crazy drive.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
We got fires, we got floods, we got Marlon blocking traffic and giving bad directions. It's tough getting here from where she came from. 3 hours all morning.
I gotta say, the GPS gave me bad directions a couple times, and I'm like, why would it take me off the 101 to get back on the 101?
Oh my goodness!
Like, that was like a 7-minute delay, so I had to make like an illegal turn. I'm like, that's gonna cut me 7 minutes. I totally did it.
Well, you made it, and we really appreciate you making the trip. And ladies and gentlemen, I brought her on because this lady is a mortgage expert, and what we try to talk about here on the Road to a Million show is how people can go from wherever they are to a better place. A lot of people want to own their first home. A lot of people want to figure out how to refinance the one they have and do something better, expand, buy some income property. And so I thought it would be important to have you, one of my favorite mortgage experts, on the show to talk about how we can get people going. Let's start by tell us, you want to tell us anything about your business you want to tell us? Company, what you do, how long have you been doing it?
I've been doing mortgages for 4 years.
Okay.
Which is not that long. I had someone of my Facebook leads call me, right? And he's like, so how long you been in the business? I said, 4 years. Oh, well, then that's not going to work because you don't have enough experience. And I said, well, what makes you think I don't have enough experience? Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm the miracle worker here. I make miracles happen.
Well, you have a reputation about doing just that. So that's part of why you're here.
Well, I think it's just like in any business, it's not just about mortgages. It's not about insurance. It's not about real estate. It's about the person, right? And are you the type of person that makes shit happen? And I don't know, is it how PG rated R this is? Can I speak freely?
You go for it. Just go for it. Say whatever moves you.
Yeah. So, I'm not the type of person that takes no for an answer easily. I will eventually if it's like I'm like, okay, I'll take that no. But for the most part, so, it's like, if one bank says, okay, this is a no, well, I find a way and see, okay, how can we structure differently? So every case is different and no loan is the same.
So you work with lots of different banks.
Yes.
So you're a mortgage broker. Tell my audience how that works.
I actually work with the direct lender. I'm a direct lender with American Home Loans. However, I've built a lot of relationships over the years, and that's probably one of my fortes is building relationships. So even if there's a time where I personally cannot do the loan, I know the right people that will. So
that's key.
Yeah, that is. Because my goal is that if you come to me, we're going to get the loan done.
Gotcha. So some people think they're kind of just relegated to their own bank, and that's really not the case, right?
To be honest with you, it's like that is not how it works. Like I would tell you, it's not how it's supposed to be, but everybody, at least in the industry, they have to have resources other places because one bank is not going to be just the best at everything.
Right. I got you.
Yeah.
And so are there programs out there for people who've never like first timers? Are there like specific lenders or specific programs that are aimed just at people who are buying for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, the most common programs for first-time home buyers, it's FHA. Right. FHA is the most flexible program. It really is a really good program because you could go with as little as 3.5% down, which is really not not that much
That's
at all.
super low. I mean,
Yeah, you could buy up to a 4-unit with 3.5% down. Now there are different regulations for 3 units and 4 units, but at least for single families and duplexes, it's just 3.5% down, and you pay your closing cost as well. However, we always find ways to help
to kind of help
the
contribute
buyer
toward
with
that.
like a seller credit and maybe a little bit of a lender credit as well. So they end up paying about maybe a third of the closing cost.
Now this is big because my crew, I preach income property ownership, and to hear that you could actually potentially buy a piece of income producing property with 3.5% down, and they find ways to many times get the seller to give you a credit at the end, meaning you could erase some of those closing costs. And this is kind of, what I've done a lot of when we get into a transaction and we go convince that seller in order to make this deal go smoothly, he ought to contribute a little bit to the buyer's closing costs. And so what she's saying to you guys is 3.5% down on a duplex, or you know what I preach.
So basically, is like at least with the realtors that I work with, that we've created a good relationship over the years. Technically, we end up helping the buyers to get in the property with like 4 or 4.5%.
All in total,
including closing costs. So it's really
that's amazing.
It's a deal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We're talking about your opportunity to really grow yourself, because you know how I preach the income property game, right? Buy a duplex, live in one, let somebody else help you pay that mortgage. Buy a triplex, live in one, let 2 other people help you pay that mortgage. What she's saying to you is FHA allows you to buy a 1 to 4 unit. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So 1 to 4 units with this teeny weeny down payment, ladies and gentlemen, it's an opportunity that a lot of us aren't taking advantage of. You'd rather pay rent to somebody than own a 4-plex where you live in one and 3 other people help you with that mortgage. It only makes too much sense. And you need to talk to a mortgage expert like Melissa in order to make this happen. That's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also there's different little caveats for the unit part. It's a little bit more tricky when it comes to 3 and 4 units, because the FHA rule is that the rents of all the units cannot multiplied by 75% cannot exceed the mortgage payment.
The rents of the other 3 or all together?
I mean the mortgage.
The mortgage.
The mortgage cannot exceed the 75% of the total amount of the rents. So let's say the total rents are $10,000. Just to give you round numbers, because I'm not that great on math. I use calculator.
Okay. Don't worry. Marlon does too.
And so let's say it's $10,000 and the mortgage payment is $12,000, So then if you multiply 10,000 times 75%, that's 7,500. It's definitely off.
Right.
It's not going to cover it.
Right.
And in most cases, it's kind of difficult to find properties that meet that rule.
Gotcha.
At least for triplex and fourplex.
So let's just to put this more succinctly. If a property has $10,000 in monthly income, then the mortgage needs to be $7,500 a month
or below
or less.
Yes.
Okay. Now that's interesting, because some people might think that's a huge challenge, but with the way rents have risen in Southern California in particular, and everywhere else in the country that I can think of over the last 10 years, 111 months to be exact, the opportunity to buy something that has a mortgage that's 75% of the total rental value is actually higher than you might think, because of the way rents have gone bonkers in the U.S. Does that make sense?
That is true. Rents are going higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, I deal with mostly buyers that are first-time home buyers. I do specialize a lot in the Latino community, and I love it, honestly, because a lot of times the borrowers come in, they literally come expecting that they're gonna get a no.
Yeah.
Expecting that they're gonna get
they
declined.
can expect it to get turned
Their
down.
biggest fear is just to face the rejection or the embarrassment of having to show their documents and get rejected. So the first thing I say is, I'm not going to tell you if you qualify or not. I'm going to tell you how to qualify.
That's key.
Yeah.
That's key.
So
I like that.
I always open up with that because that puts off the pressure of whether you get pre-qualified in this very second to go buy a home, which a lot of cases it happens that way, and we issue the pre-qualification letter on the spot. But a lot of times it requires to fix their credit, to help them deposit the money in the bank because they have it cash under the
in the mattress,
right? Or get a gift fund or something like that. So we're taking turns here because
you're moving the camera.
My
That's
Instagram
fine.
cannot capture us both.
Do whatever you got to do.
So that's the first step. So it's like either you qualify now or we make a plan on how to help you qualify. So I always tell there's 3 major components. It's income, there's credit, and there's assets or down payment, right?
Yep.
So the income, there's really not much we can do as far as fixing it because the income is the income, right? And there's not a lot you can manipulate on that.
Can't fudge that too much.
Right. So the only way of expanding that income is to adding borrowers. And that's very common. Like I deal with that all day long, and we have 2, 3, sometimes 4 borrowers.
You merge some incomes together.
We put them together in between, 4 people that make $30,000 a year. They end up buying a house.
$120,000. Right.
Yeah.
I see.
And so we do that all day long. So even if whoever's watching, they're like, oh, but I don't make a lot of money. How can I buy a house? Don't worry. There's all sorts of incomes that you can use. If I always tell them, do you have your mom or your dad that's retired that receives Social Security? That's $1,000 a month. We can use that. And that's a little bit. Or let's say somebody that takes care of a disabled relative and they get IHS's income. That's something you can utilize.
Oh, wow.
Or child support or alimony or anything of that, as long as it's documented. So
don't say that word alimony around here. Wow. Okay. So every dollar counts.
Every dollar counts.
Okay.
Yeah. And then sometimes, it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you say, well, I have someone that is willing to co-sign for me, but they already have a property. So I always tell them, well, let's see, because usually when somebody already has a property, they already qualified for the most that they could qualify. So their income is already maximized, and we have to include that debt.
So it doesn't
help. Really make sense because it ends up not helping that much.
Okay.
So if you want to buy and you feel your income is not enough, then ask someone that will help you, preferably that they do not have a property.
That they don't have their own mortgage.
Or ideally a car payment or a lot of debt.
Gotcha. So somebody else that has some freed up income can contribute to your application basically, and you team up.
Yes.
To acquire that property.
You combine forces.
And listen, you got to be open to that concept. A lot of people don't own because as the Lone Ranger, they don't qualify. But the fact is, if you team up with some people that could help you qualify, that could be beneficial to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I think a lot of people fail to look at who's around them and what's around them to help them get to that point. It's worth it to figure it out so that you can stop paying somebody else's mortgage and have your own. And in many cases, it ends up being the best savings account you'll ever have, owning your own piece of real estate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's as far as the income,
okay.
Right? Then when we go down to the credit, I always tell people that's the easiest part.
Credit's the easiest part?
That's the easiest part.
Have you met my listeners?
That is the easiest part because that could be easily fixed.
Okay.
That could be easily restored. I have plenty of contacts that can assist the consumer with guiding them, and they work their magic, and basically you're able to have good credit in a very short period of time, between 30 to 90 days.
You hear that?
I've done it myself. I'm just like everybody else. I've had my struggles, my ups and downs, where I just said, you know what, forget it. I can't pay no more, and I let my credit go. And then after I went through that process years ago. In like 30 days, my credit went from like 600 to like 750.
Wow. You hear that, you 410 credit folks? You can get there from here. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And also a lot of times, I don't even put them through credit repair. I just look at their credit and see, okay, what accounts do we have to work with? We have the tools like the simulator, the what if simulator, where you can just, play with the accounts.
Pay this one thing
Pay
off
this, and
or...
yeah, but it tells you exactly how many points it would increase.
Oh, wow.
And so all accounts are not equal.
Aha.
If you think, and I have this conversation sometimes, and sometimes, I deal with a lot of Latinos.
Yeah.
And sometimes the men are a little bit stubborn. And they're like, oh, why am I going to take advice from this young girl? I'm a macho, So I'm like, they're like, no, I'm already doing it. I'm already paying it off. I'm already going to do it. I said, yes, sir. However, if you let me help you, I will tell you which accounts will benefit you the most, because you could pay this account off and give you 0 points. But if you pay this account down to 30%, it will give you 15 points.
Now, that's big. See, I think a lot of people don't know this. Not all negative items are created equally. So you need to talk to an expert who can tell you, if you pay that one and we dispute that one, we could get you 50 points, 100 points, versus if you pay that one, you get nothing. You just get, okay, thank you very much for your money. So it's important to realize which things will have the most impact.
Yeah. I always tell people, they're like, oh, I'm about to have a collection, settle this and that. And I said, wait. Before you do anything, let me take a look at it, and then
put them through the simulator.
We'll figure it out. And if you still need to do credit repair, then we'll put you through there. And if you still feel, because of you're compelled by your conscience, that you still want to pay those off after the fact that you buy a house, then do it.
Then that's your business.
By all means. But actually, sometimes paying off collections will hurt your credit more.
Because you get rid of the account itself.
Well, no, because the account is reported, let's say it was from 2016, and you're now in 2019 finally starting to make payments on it. So now, instead of you getting good points for paying now, you're getting, it's reporting you're paying 3 years late.
Oh,
so it's going to actually drop your points. So that's why with some credit restoration, you can actually just completely eliminate the account. And then you can also, outside of that deal with them and settle it, but after the fact.
Interesting stuff, my people. Did you know that? There's some things that maybe you shouldn't pay off. Whoa. How about that for news? We're talking to Melissa Barba. She's a mortgage and credit and lending expert. And we brought her on the show just to educate you with stuff like that. Little pearls of wisdom that might help you get somewhere faster, more efficiently, because this is somebody who does it every day. Don't try to be the Lone Ranger. Get some help. And guess what? Somebody like Melissa will help you for free, because she's going to help you get your loan, and that's where she gets paid when you get ready to get your loan to buy your house. So it's in her best interest to help you get ready. We really want to say thanks for being here. We're having fun with Melissa Barba. This is the Road to a Million show at roadtoamillionshow.com. So tell us some more stuff. I'm having a good time here.
So we're going income, then credit. We already agreed credit, that's the easy part. And then we have the assets or down payment. Right? So for first-time home buyers, that could be a challenge at times. Or, some people have the 20% down. Ideally, everybody would want to come in with 20% down. Why? Because this way you don't have to pay mortgage insurance. Right? So if you go conventional and you put 20% down, you're saving about a 300, let's say on an average 400 to 500,000 purchase. You end up saving between $300 to $400 a month on the mortgage insurance. With FHA, you have to pay that for the life of the loan. Even after you have 20% equity, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away unless you refinance from FHA to conventional. So that's one of the benefits of conventional, that you don't have to pay the mortgage insurance. Now, with FHA, you do, but also it allows you to owe more. they lend you more money.
Okay.
So the debt to income ratio, it's a lot higher. So the debt to income ratio is for, I know a lot of people may know, but some of you may not know what the debt to income ratio is the proportion of what you earn compared to what you owe. So the rule is that your mortgage payment cannot be more than 45% of what you make.
Okay. So mortgage payment per month should not exceed 45% of your monthly gross income.
Mm-hmm.
You guys hear that?
So
That's
if
a
you
formula.
So if you make 10,000, we're gonna go with the 10,000.
Yeah,
That's
let's just
easy
stay
math
with
for me.
10,000.
So if you make $10,000, your mortgage payment cannot exceed $4,500. That's including taxes. That's including insurance. That's including
Principal and
mortgage
interest.
insurance, everything.
So everything. 45%, ladies and gentlemen. That's a magic number for you. You really you could take a quick snapshot of yourself right now, because she just told you, take your gross income, and that's before taxes and
gross income.
Okay, so your gross.
That's if you are an employee.
Okay.
If you're self-employed, we can go on that route.
That's a whole different animal if you're self-employed.
Right now we're talking W-2 income.
Okay, straight income, your paycheck, your monthly gross income is a number. It's 10 grand. You're making pretty good money. Your mortgage, the most mortgage that they're going to allow you to carry is $4,500 a month. Mm-hmm. That's the max that you qualify for from an income standpoint. Yes. So this is just a good gauge for you guys to start doing a little homework so you can start getting ready, so that when it's time to get your loan, you know a little bit ahead of time before you even call.
Yeah. Now, most people have at least a car payment and a couple credit cards.
Yep.
So that's going to add on top of that to the debt. So then we have the back end ratio, which would be including all the debt. So with FHA, technically you can go up to 55%. But
all in.
But I said technically because we can push it almost up to 57%.
And we like to push the envelope. I like that.
I always push to the limit.
You're talking our language around here on Road to a Million show, because we're always trying to push the envelope and get a little bit more than they thought they would give us. So that's good to know. That's good to know.
So that 12%, that makes a huge difference, because like I said, most people have at least a car payment and a couple credit cards.
Yep.
So then I'm just explaining that part because I'm going to go into the down payment assistance program. And so it's important that
you set the table.
Yes, I'm setting the table so that I can go and explain the difference.
Now tell me this. So when you plug in those credit card payments, are we using like the minimum monthly payment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you guys hear that? It's the minimum monthly payment on the credit card and the car note and all of those things, and add that to the 45%. And you know that around 55, 57% with a little bit of boosting from Melissa, that's your magic number. Yeah. So when you start to think about, okay, what do I need to trim down, shave down? How do I need to lower my overhead? Use that 55% all-in number as the barometer. What's my gross income, and what's 55% of that? That's what it needs to look like, the most I can spend. That's think about that number.
Yeah, and so let's say like student loans, that's a big one, because a lot of people have student loans and they have deferred payments. If they have deferred payments, then we have to use 1% of the total amount of the loan. So a lot of times student loans are a big deal breaker, because they end up not helping to make the deal happen, because the minimum payments are too high in paper, even though if they're not making the payment.
Even if you're not making the payment, they still count it against you.
Yeah, you still count it. Yeah.
So think about that.
And that, and any, or like say you're making payments to the IRS, that counts as payments too. So,
okay.
Yeah. So anything that's on your credit and anything that is legal by court.
Gotcha. Okay, so all of those go into that 55% number. So you got to plan, because that's the way that's going to break down. That's the way the lender is going to evaluate you, in addition to your income. So that's your income. Your credit goes with that. Your assets. That's all about the money you have for the down payment.
Another good point to make regarding the assets is that the down payment. Let's just talk about this total of like the 3.5% plus the closing costs. This can come from a 401k account. This can come from a gift from any relative or person, that may want to gift you money. Believe me, you'll be like, oh, who want to? But believe me, I see gifts all the time.
Could I get some gifts from my play auntie?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So we're talking down payment now. Okay, wait.
Yes.
So let me just slow you down for a second. We talked about your income. Then we talked about your credit. Now we're going to talk about the assets, which mean the amount of money you got to come out of pocket for a down payment. This is important. Listen up.
Yes, this is important because this is the part that stops a lot of people to move forward. Because some people do actually have the income, but they live paycheck to paycheck, so they don't have money saved for the
They've been spending all they make, right?
Yeah, they have.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are options for down payment assistance. However, this is not free money. So basically what they do is they loan you the money for the down payment. So that 3.5% that you require, they're going to give you a second silent loan, which that means is that you do not have to make payments on that portion, on that loan, basically pretty much forever.
Well, wait, who is they? Who's going to give us that?
It's a government-sponsored.
It's not the bank. It's not the same lender.
It's not. It's called CalHefa. CalHefa, it's a program here in California. And it's a government-sponsored program.
Okay.
And they lend you this 3.5% for the down payment and an additional 3% for closing costs.
Okay, CalHefa, is that CalHefa?
It's CalHFA.
Oh, okay, it's a kind of
it's like
an acronym.
Abbreviate. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
That's as good as I can pronounce it.
Well, because I knew this girl named CalHefa. She was evil, man. I'm telling you. All right, that's the down payment assistance program.
Yeah, so they give you a second silent loan for the down payment and a third silent loan for the 3% for the closing cost.
Wow.
So then let's say it's a total, let's say on a 450,000, you're talking about 15,000 for the down payment, 15,000 for the closing cost. That's a 30,000 loan. Right? Now, if you put your own down payment, we talked about it that you could get away with maybe 4%. So with 20,000, you end up going into your home with already 3.5% equity versus if you use this program, you're going into the loan upside down.
You're 10 grand in the red.
You're 103%.
Yeah.
You're borrowing 103% of the value of the home.
Wow.
So you're going a little bit upside down. Now, like I said, if this is the only option, it's still a good option.
Still gets you in.
It still gets you in. Now, the other, like I said, it's a very good program if that's the only option. However, the other advantage of why you would want to put your own down payment is because this program says that the max that you could borrow is 45%, period. Including your debt.
Including these assistance numbers too?
Including the car payment, including the credit card payment, including everything. No, they don't take into consideration the second and the third
okay, because they're taking the first in. Yeah. That's the 45%.
Right. But
then the
what
other
this
10.
one says is we don't care front and back end ratio. They say we can only loan you up to 45%. Your debt to income ratio can only be up to 45%. So
total.
So basically, we're going to include the mortgage payment and your car payment and your credit card payments and all of these.
You don't get that extra 10.
You don't get that extra 12.
12, right?
Yeah. So what that equals, it's about $100,000 difference.
Oh boy.
So if you qualify for $500,000 on a regular FHA, you probably qualify for $400,000.
Oh.
If you're wanting to go through this program.
So you're going to end up with less house.
Less house. And the thing is that in this area, most people want to qualify for as much as they can because of the prices of the house.
Prices are bonkers in this town.
You can barely get nothing below $450.
Yeah.
In this LA County.
Southern California is almost impossible.
Yeah. Which actually right now I feel almost in Northern California. I was like, I think I'm already in Northern California.
Yeah, the numbers have gone crazy. I think we talked about this on our show last week. Prices rose for 111 straight months in Southern California. Wow. It's over 10 years of increase every month. and it's mellowed out a little bit now. But why don't you tell us? So tell us a little bit about interest rates. Is it still a favorable time? Is it a good environment?
Yeah, definitely. It's still on a low end.
Yeah.
It's definitely
for our lifetime, this is still going to be considered a low number.
When I started, it was probably about the same, or maybe slightly a little bit higher.
Okay.
And then it started to climb, slowly but surely, climb. And then finally, right now, we saw a big drop. Mm-hmm. But I am no fortune teller. Right. I am not a finance expert. I know my programs. I know how to get you approved. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on the rest. Don't make me predict the market because I don't know. I'm honest.
Hey, understood. Yeah, and I think it's like you said, relatively speaking, these are low rates. These are lifetime low rates.
They really are.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean,
I was telling them
4%. It's
free money. I call it free money.
I come from Mexico.
Yeah.
4% is like unheard of. It doesn't even exist in the history of the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like it's not even close remotely as easy to acquire a property than the way it is here. I mean, people would be grateful if they would be getting a 8, 9, 10% over there, and with the same characteristics.
Wow.
And I remember one time I met this guy. This is an old guy it wasn't a swap meet. It was like a fair in cultural.
Okay.
And I was there with a realtor at a booth.
Okay.
And the guy came to me, and he was just wanting to talk. Old guy, want to talk to a pretty girl, whatever. And so he's just talking. But he told me something very interesting. He's like, people don't get it. He's like, people complain about the interest rates and this and that. And like, he's like, it still doesn't matter. When I bought my home, it was 18%. Back in the days when he bought his
in the
homes,
70s.
Right? I don't know what year. He looked pretty old. But
but I can tell you he's right.
But the thing is, like, even at 18%, you're still making profit instead of just throwing away your money.
Well, and think about it. You're being subsidized. So you're talking about like 3.5% down. That means a bank is saying we're going to loan you 96.5% of the price of this house. Oh, and we're going to loan it to you at 4% interest. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we got to realize this is a huge opportunity to have a purchase, maybe the largest purchase of your life, subsidized by a bank. And in other countries, it's like she's saying, in other countries, they don't get this privilege because the interest rates are so much higher and the leverage is so much lower.
And they make it so difficult.
Yeah.
Like, they won't just lend you so easily.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Word to the wise, ladies and gentlemen. Word to the wise. So we're going to go to a short break, and we're going to come back and talk. My man Ronaldo sent in a question. We're going to address his question. We're going to take a very, very short break. We're going to come back. We're talking to Melissa Barba, mortgage, finance, financial picture expert. She's here with us on the Road to $1 Million show. I'm Daron C. Campbell, hardest working man in real estate. We'll be back in 3 minutes. And we are back on the road to a million show with me, Daron C. Campbell, the hardest working man in real estate. And I'm here with our mortgage loan finance expert, Ms. Melissa Barba. Thanks for being here. Yeah. She is dropping a little wisdom on us today, ladies and gentlemen. She's teaching me stuff about mortgages and the opportunity you have to become a homeowner. And if you take proper advantage of these things, these programs, you could get yourself into a position where, and I've seen this personally, you could own something for equal to or less than what you're paying in rent right now. You ever think about that? What if you could own something for the same amount that you're paying in rent? You'd stop paying someone else's mortgage and you'd be paying your own. Think about that. But Melissa's going to help me out because my main man, Ronaldo, sent in a question. And the cool thing is, Ronaldo is on the tribe watching every time. But this dude is driving a truck loaded with Teslas on the back. And who knows what part of the world you're in today, Ronaldo. Hit me up when you get a chance. But Ronaldo asks, and Melissa's going to help me with this, can a business that generates high income assist an individual in purchasing a property? So when you say somebody could gift somebody something, could like I know Ronaldo owns a business. Mm-hmm. He's thinking maybe could his business assist maybe his daughter?
Well, assist is a very vague word because I don't know exactly.
I think that's why I use it. It's vague.
I don't know exactly what he means by that, but there's a couple of things I can think of. If he's talking about the income,
I think he's talking about the gift, down payment.
Okay,
gift
so as a gift, yes.
Okay.
You can gift funds from a business account to a individual.
Okay.
Now, in some cases, they may only allow you to use up to 50% of the business funds. And,
okay, gotcha.
And in a lot of cases, they will ask for a CPA letter stating that using those funds will not be a detriment to the business.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you got that, Ronaldo? So yes, you could do it.
Now, if I'm also thinking, if he's saying about the income, the only way the business could assist is if you pay yourself like a K-1 or basically whatever you report on your personal taxes, that's what it would be utilized. The loans are not based on business income as a corporation. If you're a business, a self-employed, then yes. However, not as a corporation.
Ooh, okay. That's interesting stuff. Good to know. So, Ronaldo, in your business, there is an avenue under which you could help somebody out and help them qualify with some income.
Yeah. Okay. However, that leads us to the other options that are available that are not low down payment income. They're actually the opposite.
Okay, tell us about that because he's saying a business that generates high income.
So let's talk a little bit about options for business owners.
Okay.
Right. So business owners are the opposite. They may have the cash and they do have the money to put a large down payment. However, they do not have the income.
Well, because I happen to know there are many, many business owners who are trying on paper to make as little as possible.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I myself included. Anyone who's self-employed, really, because we don't want to just give away the money to Uncle Sam, right? It doesn't seem like a good return of investment. However, there are programs where some of them are almost pretty much not stated, but you can use bank statements. So in some cases, 3 months bank statements. In some cases, 12 months bank statements.
Okay, that's important. Let's clarify that for my whole crew here. Stated income loan. Now, basically,
they're called non-QM.
Non-QM. That's a non-qualifier mortgage for those of you who don't know. And tell us about stated income. What does that really mean?
Well, they're not stated because you do have to prove you have the income through bank statements. So basically, they're going to utilize the income that you received on your bank statements. I just happen to know about a new program that only requires 3 months bank statement.
3 months bank statement.
Yeah. Now, in that case, I believe the down payment is going to be either 20 or 25%. Don't quote me exactly on it because that's not the ones I focus on the most or that I do the most.
Okay.
And they do require a higher FICO, like maybe 700. But like I said, the credit that has the solution. And if you're having the option of not having to present tax returns and only present 3 months bank statements, you're golden.
Hello.
And if you have the money for the down payment, then that's it.
That's the program I need because I ain't trying to show nothing.
And then let me tell you about this one because you're a big promoter of income properties.
That I am the biggest.
Right? Mm-hmm. So there is a new program that I just got access to, and that basically that one is stated.
Really?
No, actually, they don't even ask you for income.
That's my kind of loan right there.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, it's basically credit and down payment.
Really?
It's pretty much like a hard money loan,
but
at a 5.75% interest rate.
You hear what I'm talking about, people?
On a 5-1 arm.
5-1 arm.
Which is fine because most investment properties, you're not going to hold
a shorter term
that
deal.
long. And, even if you do buy it for renting or whatever, you could still have 5 years to refinance, make a plan on how to make it happen. So, but at least you get into your property, you build your equity, you can do a lot of things in those 5 years.
We're dropping some science on you here on the Road to a Million show, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Melissa Barba is giving us some insights, some tips, some brilliant stuff about how to get financing done. Now, you might want to do it with your first home. You might want to do it with your first income-producing property. The fact of the matter is the financing is out there. And isn't it true that there are so many financial institutions looking to put more money in the street? I mean, a lot of people think the loans aren't out there. It's only for rich people.
I think you're absolutely right, because if they weren't looking to lend money, they wouldn't come up with all these flexible programs.
Exactly. So, it's funny because
because it's a business for them.
They only make money if they lend the money,
exactly.
Right? So a lot of people are shy about whether or not they qualify or whether or not it's for them. But I want you guys to think real hard and think real carefully about this, because if you get out there and start exploring what your capabilities are, you might be shocked at what you could actually qualify for. And so don't leave the opportunity on the table out of ignorance. Learn and figure out what you do qualify for, and then we work backwards. And what I have people do is after they get pre-qualified from Melissa, then I work backwards, and she says they qualify for $612,000. Then I go backwards and then I find them a property that fits into their money.
Exactly.
So where there's a will, there's a way, right? Yeah. And then if you got the king of all negotiators on your team, who's that?
Exactly.
Daron C. Campbell. Exactly. Then we can go and say, look at a property that's where they're asking $700,000. We know you could buy something for $610,000 because Melissa told you could. Then I'll go negotiate that seller. And a lot of times, that pre-qualification letter that she gives us is the ammunition I'll use with that seller to get the price down. You get it? I go, hey, Mr. Seller, my client loves the property, but they're only qualified for $610. If you sell it to us for $610, maybe we'll make a deal. And many times they go, all right, I'd rather make a deal than sit here on the market.
Yeah, and that's the key too, is to really have a good representation on both ends, on the real estate and on the lending side, because it really is, we're a team.
Yep.
And a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of time, most of the time, like with my realtors that I work in partnership, they submit an offer, they send me the name of the listing agent, I immediately call them, and once that happens, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap, because there's no way they're gonna resist me.
that means the girl is good.
I am good.
The girl is good.
I am effing good at what I do. But it's not just at what I do, because I'm a very authentic and honest person. Mm-hmm. So by the time I qualified someone, I know that this is good for what I said it's good for. So when I talk to someone and I convey that message, it's like, look, this is what they are, they have this much, and they have objections. Sometimes they want to cross-qualify with their own lenders, and their own lenders want to tear the file apart because for some reason they don't want to or whatever.
They're not getting the deal.
They believe they're underwriters or who knows, and I'm like, and I had one case where like I said, I'm the queen of pushing,
The queen of pushing. All right.
Yeah, and so I had this one deal. It was a conventional. In conventional loans, you can go up to 50% debt to income ratio total, front and back. And so this one deal was at 49.8%
Oh,
DTI.
wow. Okay.
And so the lender from the other one in the listing agent was like, well, but it's 49.8. Like, I don't know how I feel about that.
What?
I said, well, it is 49.8, and you approved it, so
Make it happen.
It is. If it passes, it passes. So what's the difference? And so anyway, long story short, I convinced them.
Got it done, right?
And we got it done, and we got it funded, and all went great. So.
I like it. Okay, so we've got a question from Shidal Campbell. What are the rates for bank statement loans? Are they way more expensive
That's a
than
good question.
than
That's
the
a great
other
question.
stuff?
Yeah, they are higher. They're probably gonna be in the between mid 5s to mid 6s.
Okay.
Like between 5.5, you could go up to 7%, somewhere around there.
So slightly more expensive than your traditional conventional money, but nevertheless, if it's the way to get in, many times it makes more sense for you to get in and improve your position as you go. And a bank statement loan, I mean, that's about as easy a qualifying
That's about as good
thing.
as it gets,
Right.
honestly.
Right. We're just going to look at what you deposited in the bank and we'll take your word for the rest. That's an opportunity. Recognize, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, that's awesome. That's interesting stuff. So, wow. So
We're almost out of time.
the time just flies. It's the craziest
The
thing.
time flies when you're having fun.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right.
That's how I feel when I do my show. It's like an hour, and it goes just by so fast.
That's what happens to me. This is a 2-hour show and it flies by, and we love having experts like you on board because, it goes fast, but we get to educate our people about a lot of things that some people have never heard about before. Like some of these things you just talked about, I'm sure a lot of people have never heard of and didn't know existed, and that's why this is valuable, and that's why we appreciate you taking the 3-hour drive to come up here and shed some knowledge and help us out.
No, I love it. I mean, this is my This
is
thing.
your scene.
This is my thing. So I love it. I
perfect.
enjoy it.
Well, we are honored and really, really proud to have you on board. So you mentioned earlier you don't have a crystal ball, and none of us do. But do you anticipate anything anything radical in the future that might dramatically change things? Or do you think for the moment it's just business as usual?
I personally think for the moment it's just business as usual.
Okay.
And
you haven't seen anything that might alarm the system, if you will. I mean, look, things come and they go, and presidents get impeached and they don't. And it's
and you're also asking someone that I believe in. I believe that it doesn't matter what the economy does, that we as individuals have control over destiny, and that no matter whether it's a good economy or a bad economy, I choose to make it a good economy no matter what. And there's always people succeeding and thriving in the worst economies. So you're asking someone that is always going to give you that answer. So
well, see, that's brilliant, because if you want to listen to the greatest investor in the history of planet Earth, Warren Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. So what he's saying basically is, even if we go into a slowdown, we go into a recession, if you will, that's the opportunity to maximize your money to grow, your opportunity to grow your money. They called the very last recession we had the largest transference of wealth in the history of planet Earth. Meaning, if we go into a slowdown or a recession, that's your opportunity to take advantage of a lower price and still grow your wealth, right?
Yeah.
Makes
Absolutely.
sense. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to her.
Same thing when they ask about, is it a good time to buy? Like
every day is a good time to buy, right?
It's about the time you sell. That's the one you
That's
gotta be
right.
careful about. So I work with buyers, so they ask me, is this a good time to buy? I say it's always a good time to buy. It's just when you sell where you gotta be more cautious.
That's very, very true. And the other thing about that is, when you look historically, ladies and gentlemen, at where we are from an interest rate standpoint, we are still at a ridiculously low level when it comes to interest. I think my parents, when they bought their first house in I think it was 1968 or 69, the interest rate was 14%, 15%.
Exactly.
So this money's cheap.
Yes.
This money's cheap. Ladies and gentlemen, take advantage. This is Melissa Barba, loan expert, mortgage expert. We are, whoa. Okay, so we got about a minute left. So tell us about your show. How can we watch you? Give us, tell us how to find you.
Yeah. Well, my show is called Todóloga, and you can go to my Facebook page, Melissa Barba Todóloga.
Am I going to have to get my Google Translator out to understand what's going on?
It actually means everythingologist.
Everythingologist.
Yes, everythingologist.
That's a new one. That's a new one on the brother, but okay, go ahead.
It's a made-up word.
I like it.
And, yeah. And so that show, it's about everything.
Okay.
Like all aspects of life.
Okay.
Because I believe that we should strive to have success in all areas of life, not just one.
Ooh, she's been listening to our show too, because we talk about your brain, your body, and your bank account. You got to develop all of those to be a complete person.
And also I have my website, todologa.com.
Okay.
And you can see some of the previous shows there. And
nice.
It's every Monday at 7 p.m.
Awesome.
And my Instagram is Melissa Barba03. And
follow her.
Yes, follow me.
The lady's got wisdom. She's got knowledge for you. She's got access.
Just a disclaimer, the show is in Spanish.
That's what I said. I'm going to get my Google Translator out and bam.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I'm going to learn Spanish. This is one of the biggest mistakes I made in high school. I took French. What the hell am I going to do with that? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Road to a Million show. I'm Daron C. Campbell, the hardest working man in real estate, your real estate mentor. And I'm going to see, this is where you have to say, at the top. So I'm going to cue you. And I'm going to see you at the top. All right, everybody have a great day. Peace.